seen, and he is not in it alone. Paul Ryan is doing everything he can to help him. Everything about this cover-up is inept, beginning with the simple fact that it is public. Cover-ups are not supposed to be public, and you're not supposed to help publicly identify exactly what you want to cover up the most.
Can you tell us who signed you in at the White House?
We're not going to ever talk about any of that.
That is the clearest answer Devin Nunes has given about what he wants to keep covered up. To many other questions, he has just given general answers like this one.
So you're not going to tell the committee who your sources are?
We never talk about sources and methods.
Okay. And
I wouldn't expect you to do that either. You guys are so infatuated with sources.
Now, there you go. That's the kind of general deflecting answer you're supposed to give when you're in the middle of a cover-up, when you're trying to cover up who presented you some classified information that you then presented to the president. You just give general blather about never revealing sources when you're asked about that. When it is then discovered that the place you examined this classified information was somewhere on the White House grounds, when you're asked how you entered the White House grounds, you don't jump up and down and say, that's the most important secret in this whole thing. If you find out that, you'll find out everything, which is basically what Devin Nunes meant when he answered that question.
Can you tell us who signed you in at the White House?
We're not going to ever talk about any of that.
As I've been saying since the first day of this scandal, Devin Nunes is in way over his head. When you're covering something up, you never say, we're not going to ever talk about any of that. You give general diversionary answers. And when you're the Speaker of the House and you decide who gets to be chairman of the Intelligence Committee, and the person who you have chosen to continue to be the chairman of that Intelligence Committee, after you inherited him from former Speaker John Boehner, when that chairman gets in trouble, you publicly rush to his defense. You say, this is outrageous. You say, he's doing the best possible job any chairman of the Intelligence Committee has ever done. Not Paul Ryan. He is afraid to talk about Devin Nunes. Afraid. He would rather talk about the most colossal legislative failure any Speaker of the House has ever had, his first big bill as Speaker, the Trump-Ryan health care bill. That health care bill is the single biggest public professional embarrassment in Paul Ryan's life. And he would rather talk about that now, and has said more publicly about that than he has said about Devin Nunes and that scandal. And the reason Paul Ryan is afraid of talking about Devin Nunes is because the way over his head chairman put Paul Ryan dead center in this scandal on the first day, when he told reporters something none of them have noticed. That first stop that he made before going to see the president at the White House was Paul Ryan's office.
Why did you not discuss this with the ranking member before you came to the White House? So
yes, no, and I'm going to be meeting with Mr. Schiff at some point to talk about where we go with this investigation. But I had to brief the Speaker first.
I had to brief the Speaker first. This is the third time that I have showed that video of Devin Nunes putting Speaker Ryan in the dead center of this scandal on day one. And I don't know what I have to do to get any reporters to notice this, including the ones who were standing there in the White House driveway and heard him saying that. Since he said that, Devin Nunes has done full-length interviews on CNN and Fox News and with print reporters, and not one of them has asked him about what he said to Paul Ryan and what Paul Ryan said to him before he went to the White House. Maybe if we put a breaking news banner now up here right now that says Nunes went to Ryan first, someone might ask Paul Ryan about that. Someone might ask Devin Nunes about that. They both have permanent invitations to come on this program and talk about it, but for some reason, they seem to be busy every night at this hour. Today, Casey Hunt got close. She was a breath away from that question when she got this much out of Paul Ryan on the questions of the day.
Should Devin Nunes recuse himself from the Russia investigation? And two, do you know the source of his information?
No one knows.
No.
See how fast he ran away from that? Wants to talk about health care. No one knows. Next reporter's question is about health care. That is the first hint of what Paul Ryan would say under oath if he's ever called to testify in an investigation of Devin Nunes' completely out of control week as chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Casey Hunt got us a peek into what Paul Ryan would say about his conversation with Devin Nunes before Devin Nunes went to the White House. He would say that he did not ask, or Devin Nunes did not tell him, the source of Devin Nunes' information. That's something. That's the closest we've got to the secret meeting that Devin Nunes had with Paul Ryan before his meeting with the president. It's secret only because the press apparently didn't hear it when he said it in the driveway of the White House. Paul Ryan now has to deal with his first Republican member of the House to call on Devin Nunes to recuse himself. Republican Walter Jones of North Carolina said Devin Nunes should recuse himself today. The Devin Nunes scandal is the Paul Ryan scandal. That's why Paul Ryan is not ordering Devin Nunes to recuse himself, because Paul Ryan is in this thing as deep as Devin Nunes is. And if Devin Nunes can lose his chairmanship over it, then Paul Ryan can lose his speakership over it. Yahoo's Michael Isikoff reports that speculation among staffers on the Intelligence Committee is that Michael Ellis is the source of the intelligence information Devin Nunes saw. Isikoff reports that Michael Ellis is a lawyer who worked for Nunes on the intelligence panel and who was recently hired to work on national security matters at the White House counsel's office. A White House official and spokesman for Nunes declined to comment on whether Nunes was involved in providing information to Nunes. So now we have a name to ask Devin Nunes about. Was your source Michael Ellis?
We're not going to ever talk about any of that.
Joining us now, John McLaughlin, former acting director of the CIA, and Jeremy Bash, MSNBC national security analyst, and a former chief of staff to Leon Panetta when he was director of the CIA. John McLaughlin, your reading of where this story stands tonight, what makes sense to you in this story, if anything, and what doesn't make sense to you?
Well, there are more things that don't make sense than things that do make sense. What makes sense to me at this point is, if we were to add up the things we actually know, we know Russia did interfere in our election. And when you look at all of the things that are going on now that are quite mysterious, you're driven to think it feels like a cover-up. If you were a novelist trying to write a novel about what a cover-up would look like, it would look pretty much like this. And so I think we're at the point where it's really important to get to the bottom of this. And increasingly, I doubt that that can be done through the intelligence committees. I mean, I think Chairman Nunes' actions here have pretty much neutralized his committee as an effective overseer on this issue and perhaps on other issues as well.
Do you believe that the chairman should recuse himself or be removed?
I certainly believe he should recuse himself, but I don't think that that is going to, in and of itself, make this committee a worthy committee to carry out this investigation. I mean, I've been the subject of congressional oversight for 30 years during my time in government, and I've certainly watched it carefully for 10 years since leaving government. And I don't remember anything quite as bizarre as what we're seeing now. I think it's not much of an exaggeration to say that in this case, our oversight system has essentially broken down, which is a serious thing when you consider that what they're doing here is overseeing the secret activity of the United States in an open, pluralistic society like ours. It's one of the most important things Congress does.
Jeremy Bash, the forgotten link in the chain for Devin Nunes that day is Paul Ryan, and he said very clearly in the White House driveway that he first went to Paul Ryan before going down to the White House. Anyone who's worked in the Congress knows that when a chairman or a member of Congress goes to the Speaker, everything that person does after that is sanctioned by and or ordered by the Speaker, that everything you see after that is the intent of the Speaker, which is why they go there. They want the cover of the Speaker's agreement about what to do next. What do you see in the sequence that Nunes has revealed so far? What else do you see?
Well, John McLaughlin said correctly that the effect of Chairman Nunes' actions was to neutralize the committee's ability to conduct oversight. But I would go even a step further. It wasn't just the effect, it was the purpose. The purpose of his actions was to neutralize the committee's effective oversight. Because what was clear to Chairman Nunes and the White House after last Monday's hearing when Jim Comey testified was that there was a full repudiation of Donald Trump's claims about Obama wiretapping, and there was a public announcement that the FBI now has Donald Trump's inner circle under an active FBI counterintelligence and criminal investigation for coordinating with Russians during the campaign and beyond. And that was an unmitigated disaster for the president and his allies on the Hill for everything else they're trying to accomplish. So it would make sense that Devin Nunes would try to slam the brakes. It's just he did it and swerved the entire oversight process out of its lane and really into a ditch.
Let's listen to what Lindsey Graham and John McCain said about this.
The problem that he's created is he's gone off on a lark by himself, sort of an Inspector Clouseau investigation here. If he's not willing to tell the Democrats and Republicans on the committee who he met with and what he was told, then I think he's lost his ability to lead.
Do you think it was appropriate that he went to go view these so-called intelligence reports on White House grounds?
Well,
I think there needs to be a lot of explaining to do. I've been around for quite a while, and I've never heard of any such thing.
John McLaughlin, is that the consensus among people who've been around for a while, like John McCain and yourself, that you've never heard of any such thing in terms of the particulars of the chairman's behavior, that he gets some communication that then brings him to the White House in order to examine it? Is that something you've ever heard of before?
No, that makes no sense. And as I think back over at chairmen that I've worked with of both parties, I can't imagine any one of them doing something like this. And, you know, let's go to 30,000 feet here. I think there's this, you know, there's more than just a game being played here. This is, in a way, a threat to our checks and balances system in our democracy. I mean, there's too much commingling here between the White House and the oversight function of the Congress. The Congress is there for a reason. It's to oversee the work of the executive branch, hopefully in a constructive way, but not in a way that amounts, or at least appears to be, collusion to affect the outcome of that oversight. And that essentially is going to the heart of our checks and balances system in our democracy, and in turn, therefore, I think posing a threat to democratic practice in this country.
And Jeremy, when you see that included in Devin Nunes's schedule for that day that he worked out in the Speaker's office, presumably, was first of all talk to the press on Capitol Hill saying that you're going down to the White House, then go down to the White House, present this to the president, then talk to the press again in the driveway. All of that taking place before there's a word or a hint to the ranking Democratic member on the committee or to any other members of the committee or apparently even staff of the committee.
And that violates the protocols, the traditions, and the approach that the Intelligence Committee has taken since its history. Sure, there have been times of partisan scrambling, but nothing where the chairman has purposely thwarted the ability of other members of the committee, including the ranking minority member, the Democrat, from seeing the same information, understanding the basis for an accusation, and engaging in effective and constructive oversight. I think really what needs to be focused on, Lawrence, tonight are the 17 days. The 17 days between the time that Sally Yates, as the acting Attorney General, went to Don McGahn, the White House counsel, who then told the president that Mike Flynn was lying to the vice president. Between that time, January 26th, and February 13th, the day that Mike Flynn was forced out and fired. What happened during those 17 days? The reason why I raised that window of time is because that's what Sally Yates was to testify about today at the hearing that was supposed to happen today. She was going to tell the story of exactly what she told the White House, and by all accounts, what she was going to say about those 17 days did not at all comport with the White House's official version. And so we need to hear from Sally Yates. We need to have the gag order on Sally Yates lifted so that she can tell the Congress, the overseers, and the American public what happened.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.